Hi there, this is Paul Thomson from Spitfire Audio. I'm very excited today to be able to show you our Symphonic Strings Evolutions library. This is an EvoGrid library, very much like our other EvoGrid concepts. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about that and play you some example sounds from the library. But first of all, let's just have a quick listen and see how it sounds. I've just randomized with our traditional section, and this is how it sounds. Okay, so you get the idea. So I'm going to talk to you about the concept, and then we'll look at the actual grid and the control system and see how it works. So the idea behind this was quite often you need to create music which has this feeling of evolution, a feeling of movement and excitement and shimmer and all of that kind of stuff. But the directors say doesn't want you to do anything. They say want music that doesn't really do anything, but I want it to evolve like this. I want it to kind of feel like there's a growing tension or some pressure or something like that. So these are evolutions which have been orchestrated by Ben Foskett, and then each of them have an individual concept, and then they're recorded over the entire keyboard in groups, cells, and recorded with a 60-piece string orchestra in the hall at Lyndhurst. So beautiful, massive, lush sound. And you get a really interesting texture developing. So these do sound quite different from our other EvoGrid products. Our other EvoGrids are smaller string sections, and you can they sound a bit more gritty and a bit more in your face. This is a more widescreen and a kind of lush sound. But yet you still have those really interesting textures that develop when you have a group of players who are all following the instructions, but all timing things slightly differently. So I'm going to open up the individual evolutions folder, and you can see here how we go from what we call our kind of vanilla evolutions or traditional evolutions. And this is everything from, ponce to pulsing bows. And you can check out these, for example, if you want to hear that one. So that's number 8. Then I can simply hold down the command key and click any one of the number 8 pegs here. I pick the whole range of the keyboard, and now I can just simply play and hear what that sounds like. So we've got this set to a really beautiful, lush, kind of widescreen sound. But if you want to really hear what's going on in these sections, then we can, of course, switch off the effects. The easiest way to do that is simply to click the silver effects button at the bottom. You can control the effects more closely and in more detail from the effects control section over here. But let's assume that we don't want to do that. We're going to switch off the outriggers. We're going to put the close mics up. I'm going to pull the attack down a tiny bit, and then let's just have a listen to what that sounds like. So you get the idea. What we've got here is we've got big string sections recorded in blocks. So you're always going to get a really wide, fat sound from this. So let's put our other mics back up. I'm going to put a little bit of the tree in. We've got our outriggers in. So we'll go for a really kind of standard, nice widescreen sound. And let's have a listen to some of the other stuff. So what about trem, shudders, pont, 27. Okay, let's pick these and let's have a listen. So you can hear really nice stuff here. Let's have a listen to something else. I'd really like the harmonic pulse with Vib, which is number 32. And that sounds like this. And then you've got all kinds of stuff in here. So we've got our traditional section. We've got our episodic section, which covers all of these kind of shuddering things happening episodically throughout the period of the note. And then we've got what we call our modestly extreme. So let's check out a modestly extreme patch and you'll get the idea. I like some of the pulsing, bending, pitching notes. So let's go for bends up, a little bit unusual. 41. So again, I'm going to select that, and so it's across the entire keyboard, and that sounds like this. I'm just going to hold down a couple of notes so you can hear what's going on. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool for me. Let's have a listen to cross string sound. Tasto to phasing to shudders to pulsing down bow. So that's 48, and that sounds like this. Okay, so you get what I mean. So some of these are really nice long evolutions. They really develop beautifully into interesting sounds. And this gives you an incredibly useful, massive string tool to add a huge amount of background interest to your compositions, or indeed to focus the foreground on this very, very slow but evolving texture. That you can then play around with and do all kinds of, use it with playing other instruments over it, or just make it the single sole focus. It draws you in and it arrests your attention, because it's quite an unusual technique to develop, to have a single note being held and then to develop the way that it's being played. So let's look at the actual interface as well in some more detail. So we've got our reverb section, our delay section, and tape saturation. We can turn that down to off, and that totally bypasses. You've got your ADSR here, and you've got the usual dynamics and expression controls, which can be controlled here. Now, this enables you to really shape the sounds as well. So let's have a quick look at that. So I'm going to randomize. We'll pick some random things using the dice icon here. And you'll see that we can randomize within certain restrictions, or we can literally select anything. So I'm going to select any, and we'll see what happens. You get a kind of color guide. If I just get the keyboard fully into view, you get a color guide to show you which sections you're using across which areas of the keyboard. So you'll notice that they're color coded within here. So the traditionals are yellow, then you've got the episodics are blue, and the modestly extremes are red. So I can see very quickly and easily where each section is going to be happening, where each style of Evo is going to happen. So now, if I take a look at this and just play a few things, and I can control the dynamics and the expression. So you hear there that even though one of the evolutions I was playing there at the top at the end there was really starting to get more and more intense, with the control over the dynamics, I can just bring it down to a quiet whisper and then just let it kind of drift away into nothingness. So a lot of extra control there. You've got your mic signals here, so that enables you to select in the kind of usual way that you'll recognize from our other products, your close mics, your deca tree, your ambience, and then the outriggers, which are the wide element of the deca tree. They're kind of microphones right at the sides, give you that extra bit of kind of cinemascope width. And then you've got your Evo grid and controls over here, the FX toggle on and off switch, the silver switch here. You've got overall volume for each cell, for each evolution key note center range, and then you can pan each of these as well individually. And when you're randomizing, you can randomize only within the visible range. So if you want to get a crossover of, let's say, where should we go? Let's say we want a little bit of blue, but we want mostly yellow here. Then we can randomize within visible, and then that's the likelihood that you'll get the blue is much reduced. But you can control that, and you can keep throwing the dice until you get something you like. You can check it out. And then if you think, well, you know, where's this one? Okay, I can see E4 is flashing. That's what I'm triggering here. Don't really like that one. Let's try a few different ones. Like that one. And then as before, we can kind of really drastically change our overall sound just to dial into so you can change the sound that, you know, of the kind of experience of the what the textures are. They're going to sound very different if you use the close mics as your kind of primary source compared to your tree mics, for example. You'll hear more of the individual movements and the individual players, whereas the tree mics and maybe the outriggers will give you a kind of more lush in the room sound, where you're hearing all of the beautiful reverberation of the room. So this is Symphonic Strings Evolutions, 60 players, endlessly configurable, really huge amount of incredible stuff in here. So I'll roll my dice again, randomize with any, and let's have one last listen. So there we have it. Symphonic Strings Evolutions, an incredibly creative tool, a lot of fun to use, and can really kind of bring lots of texture to your compositions. I hope you're going to enjoy using this library. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.